Well, there is yet another Battlefield movement debate that has started. This time it began on Reddit and started to spread out from there. The original post was absolutely referencing some of the newly leaked gameplay from the most recent playtest of the next Battlefield game. And the big debate this time is all revolving around whether or not the next Battlefield game should have a slide, how should the slide be, should there even be a slide possible, and every single little tiny thing in between. So without further ado, let's go over this. If you enjoy the channel, if you want to follow the next Battlefield, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and swing by the streams. I stream every single day on YouTube and Twitch at the very same time. So the original Reddit post was titled, "Unpopular Opinions, Sliding Doesn't Belong in Battlefield." Now, massive warning here. Many people have told me this paragraph that was posted and now has 3.3 thousand upvotes is actually written by ChatGPT, which is kind of funny. And it is sus. If you look at his profile, he has only one post in the entire history of his profile, and he's only commented on 3 things ever. So the post is a little sus. I personally think this is probably written by some sort of AI just to maybe engagement farm somehow, but that's not the point. The point is the fact that a massive conversation has been started surrounding this post, and we're going to talk about that conversation. This is also stemming off of a video that I made a couple days ago surrounding the fact that Battlefield players are already complaining about the next Battlefield's movement and some of its features without even really playing the game yet. But the post reads as follows, quote, "Am I the only one who thinks sliding mechanics just don't belong in Battlefield? It's ruining the experience for me. It feels like every player is spamming the slide move constantly, turning matches into this chaotic mess where no one's actually engaging in, quote, tactical combat anymore. The sliding mechanic makes the game feel more like a twitchy arcade shooter than the grounded strategic military experience Battlefield is known for. It's annoying as hell to try to track enemies who are zipping around like they're in some Call of Duty highlight reel. Plus it breaks the immersion. Soldiers in a war zone aren't dolphin diving every 2 seconds to dodge bullets. It's unrealistic and cheapens the whole vibe. On top of that, it screws with the pacing. Battlefield has always thrived on those tense, deliberate moments, positioning, flanking, holding a line. Sliding just turns it into a spam fest where skill takes a back seat to who can exploit the mechanic the fastest. I'd love to see them ditch it entirely or at least tone it down so it's not abusable. What do you think?" And feel free to leave your thoughts about this in the comment section while you listen to my thoughts on this subject. There's a lot to unpack here, and I'm going to try to get to all of it. So number one, I think the conversation surrounding movement in Battlefield is always a difficult one to have because everyone has a different idea of what Battlefield movement should be because all of the games within the same franchise are so different from each other. Battlefield 3 is super different compared to Battlefield 1, and Battlefield 1 is super different compared to 2042, and 2042 is super different compared to Battlefield 4, and BF5 is super different compared to BF3, and it just never ends, right? And ultimately, people are going to pick their favorite movement from their favorite Battlefield game, maybe pick and choose some things from different games to add here and there. It's very, very difficult, nearly impossible, for anyone to really come to a consensus as to what they want for anything in Battlefield, but especially movement. But when it comes to the slide topic in Battlefield, there are 2 very clear sides that are very adamant about their positions. The first side are the people that don't want a slide, and the second side are the people that either want a slide or are completely indifferent to there being a slide in the game. Then you could arguably say there is a third side that wants a slide, but only if it's a certain way. For the sake of just simplifying things, I'm just going to say that up front, I am definitely on the side of either wanting a slide or being indifferent to there being a slide in the game. Like, I'm all for more movement mechanics. I've never had a problem with them in really any game that I've played. I see it as more fun. I see it as more playmaking ability for me. And I've never really wanted movement to be removed from Battlefield or changed because I have always seen Battlefield as this sort of faster paced middle ground between, let's say, a milsim and Call of Duty. Okay, it's the middle ground game. You cherry pick aspects from certain things and you smash them all together and you get Battlefield. Now, starting to address some of these points in this post, again, please keep in mind, this could be written by ChatGPT, but it started a conversation nevertheless. He really comes at it from this angle of the slide breaking quote-unquote immersion and claiming it destroys tactical combat and the, quote, strategic military experience. This is where I'm going to take a firm stance and say the person that wrote this post, if they actually are a person, I'm going to say that this is an example of a player that thinks Battlefield is something that it isn't. Because at least in my experience, there doesn't seem to be any sort of group effort towards strategic combat or anything like that. I've always seen Battlefield as a game where a bunch of people load into a server and it's basically just 64 people doing their own thing. Maybe you see squads of people working together, right? But there is never going to be 32 people, a full team of Battlefield players contributing to this big sort of tactical, strategic Battlefield large-scale combat. That simply doesn't exist outside of organized competitive play. Then addressing his immersion point, I get this to a certain extent, but ultimately it really doesn't matter that much. In my opinion, if you are going to have a slide in the next Battlefield game, which as of right now it appears there is a slide, the animation, meaning the third-person animation, the way it looks to somebody else, needs to be animated in a way that doesn't look cheap or ridiculous, right? That was a huge criticism in 2042. Everything just looked stiff. Everything looked quote-unquote twitchy, some people say. And I think that can be remedied simply by having higher quality and more realistic animations. And the best part about that is it doesn't necessarily sacrifice the usability of the actual movement mechanic. It just affects how it looks, which is clearly a massive topic of discussion for many, many people. Then if you take a look at what he said in the last paragraph, this is where things really just get very low quality. These arguments he's presenting are absolutely horrible. And just to remind everybody, this post has 3.3 thousand upvotes, which is very concerning because these arguments are just so easy to blow apart. For instance, he starts out by saying that sliding screws with the pace of the game. He's partially right here. Sliding can absolutely have an effect on the pace of the game, but he's coming at it from such an insane angle. For instance, he claims Battlefield has always thrived on positioning, flanking, and holding a line, as if all of that suddenly disappears because of, quote, exploiting sliding. As if all of that deep gameplay nuance just vanishes because I hit the X button to slide on my keyboard. Anyone that has played a Battlefield with a slide, whether it be Battlefield 1, 5, and 2042, knows this argument is utter BS, and I honestly am saddened that this post has so many upvotes, because it's just flat out not true. Go play BF5 and see if sliding nullifies your positioning. Let me tell you what, it doesn't. I have a 6.7 infantry KD in Battlefield 5 because of my positioning. The people that slide around like idiots in that game get destroyed by people that actually know how to use the slide and how to position. And that segues us perfectly into the later half of this video, which is, should Battlefield have a slide? Why or why not? And what do I think about it? I'll start by stating that the next Battlefield game very obviously already is confirmed to have a slide because it inspired this entire video and movement conversation that people have been having since the very first leaks dropped. So the debate about whether or not Battlefield should even have a slide is kind of useless. The entire debate should be about how the slide in the next Battlefield should be balanced, because again, it's already confirmed to be in the game. And from my personal perspective, based on the leaks that I have seen so far, the slide in the next game looks pretty mediocre to me. It looks very basic. It looks extremely predictable. It looks as though you can only slide in one direction. I don't believe it's like Battlefield 5 slide. I can't say that for sure because obviously I've not gotten my hands on the game. There's a lot of time left. They could change that, right? We don't know. And to be perfectly honest, the people that have been leaking gameplay are not the most skilled players, so I'm not going to assume that we have all of the great data surrounding exactly how the movement is. We could be missing some nuances. But based off of what I have seen, it looks as though the slide locks you in one direction. So say you slide to the left, slide to the right, slide forward. You slide in that direction you choose for roughly, I'd say, 2 to 3 feet. And it looks fairly risky. It doesn't look as though it's very aggressive. You will get punished for using it as an aggressive movement option if you have horrible timing. And in my opinion, it looks weaker than Battlefield 2042 slide and Battlefield 5 slide. It looks more akin to Battlefield 1 slide, but maybe a slightly better version of that. So ultimately, we'll have to see how the movement actually is once we get our hands on it, but the most that type of slide could be used for is sliding into cover, maybe occasionally using it for aggressive peaks in extreme CQC scenarios. We're talking like the dude's right in your face around a corner, and you slide around the corner. and maybe you could potentially use it to gain slight momentum like you can in Battlefield 2042. For instance, I always slide and then jump out of a slide because I gain a little bit of speed. Maybe you can use it in the same way in the next Battlefield game, but again, we will have to wait to see. To wrap this video up, I just want to state that a lot of Battlefield games have always had movement options in them that create a skill gap. The slide is one of those movement options that creates a skill gap. Does Battlefield absolutely 100% need a slide? No, obviously not. Like if you look at Battlefield 3 and 4, those games did not have slides, but what those games did have was appropriate for the time, and clearly people loved it, and all those games have movement skill gaps. A lot of people are misrepresenting how older Battlefields played, maybe because they just didn't use the movement, and as a result of that, I did make a video a couple months ago called The History of Battlefield Movement, which goes through BF3 all the way to 2042, demonstrating all of the different movement options that you can perform in all of those games, just to establish the facts as a baseline, because it is very clear from reading a lot of comments on Reddit and a lot of replies on Twitter that Battlefield players, a lot of them just don't understand what you could actually do in these older Battlefield games, and even the newer ones. So that's going to wrap this video up, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy the content, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and let me know your thoughts on this topic in the comment section down below. If you've never come by a stream, I stream every single day at twitch.tv/enders and this YouTube channel. Links are all in the description for Twitter, Discord, Instagram, all that stuff. So thank you to anyone that follows there or joins the Discord. And thank you for watching. I will see you guys in the next video.